Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Rotoworld Football Show on Thursday, October 10th. It should be illegal to be October already. It's week 6. It's our preview. We're going to break down the entire slate. Once I opened the show sheet, I opened a wrong document instead. That entire slate includes games like, Bears
and somebody.
The Bears are playing this week.
Jaguars? They play the Jaguars?
We got the Bears. We got the Jaguars in London, England, where 1 out of every 2 NFL games takes place for some reason is in London. We have
Pat, I'm imagining you looking through the show sheet and you're in Google Docs and it's just documents titled manifesto, show sheet, manifesto.
Hey, no, manifestos. I don't write manifestos. I save that for the really crazy people. I save for you football sickos, the Commanders and the Ravens, the Bills and Jets.
Keep going, buddy.
Well, the thing is, we're breaking down every game, folks. That's what we do. And what we also do is riff. And we've got so many riffing topics ready to go.
It's hard to come up with one when you have so many. I actually do want to tell you guys that I've been watching a lot of baseball recently.
Are you just doing an ad read? This sounds like the start of an ad read. I just wanted to let the folks at home know I've been watching a lot of baseball.
And that's why I'm taking Cialis.
By the way, those Frank Thomas tea pill commercials,
dude, they got to tone down the tea pill commercials.
It's a little much. I have to say that the guys he's helping, their wives seem way more interested in Frank Thomas than the dudes.
We got to tone down the tea pill commercials. We've really not to go full old man. Like some of these horror movie commercials.
Oh, it's too much.
I got like 3 kids under the age of 6 in the row.
Way too much.
They can slice a body in half on a commercial.
Listen, I'm a horror guy. Okay, I'm into it. I'm a sick. But I remember the Exorcist prequel or sequel or whatever that came out last year. I remember being appalled at it. Like I was like kids, like you cannot look at this. Like this.
Yeah, I think in beer commercials they're not allowed to show someone drinking beer. They're like very strict regulations on what they're allowed to show on like alcohol commercials. But they showed the entirety of The Exorcist, 2 hours and 32-minute runtime as one commercial in a baseball game.
I know it's too much. Like did Mike Myers just empty an entire 2-gallon gas can on someone and then light them on fire? And this is a commercial,
right? And
now
that
brings us back to the bottom of the third, Guardians Dodgers.
No, without fail, it's always someone who's never been more possessed than anyone before.
Oh, so much possession this time of year.
There's just a lot of possession on the commercials.
October's a big month for demon possession, and so
all right, Pat, demon possession brings us back. Mets, bottom of the 5th. They're down 2-0. Who is batting for the Mets after a demon possession?
It's of course Brandon Nimmo.
I knew that.
Brandon Nimmo.
Real quick.
Eddie.
So I've been told by the Zoomers that Bob Costas is bad, but I love Bob Costas. Is that
listen? Wrong? Well, he no longer works for NBC, so we can talk freely about Bob.
Okay.
Some are accusing Bob of losing his fastball.
Really?
What I genuinely think it is that Zoomers have never heard an announcer that speaks to larger topics.
Yes.
Or occasionally says something that's not canned or cliche.
I see.
And so what is this? Did the dude just say vote? What the hell?
Right. Did he just reference France?
I know. Did he just reference Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid?
I hate to say this, but my fatal flaw is that I cannot relate a single name of an announcer to their voice. That connection never clicks for me. Who's the football announcer who always says, and that might be important for someone out west? And when it's
Al Michaels, of course.
Al Michaels is my favorite because that's the funniest line at the end of every 41-7 blowout ever.
If Al and Bob are so good, then why aren't they working for NBC anymore?
It's curious. Yeah. But Bob Costas, so I think he was disappointed. It sounded disappointed in a double play by the Royals last night. And
he was very disappointed when the Yankees hit into a double play, actually.
Yeah, that's what I meant that. I'm sorry. But he's not rooting for the Yankees.
No.
That's very clear. I'm a Bob Costas truther to the end. I don't care.
No, I am too. But yeah, they're not used to someone occasionally saying something other than, hey, really pump that one in there.
Right. Right.
Yeah, he's more of a British soccer announcer, which, speaking of Britain, this is where, again, 1 out of every 2 NFL games now take place in Old Albion. And the Jaguars' gift for finally winning a game is, of course, their annual transatlantic trip to the yoke we tossed off in 1783. You know, it's curious. We beat them in a war, and yet we keep playing football there.
It is strange.
Trevor Lawrence's gift for finally having a good start, Kyle, is the Bears' QB eliminating defense. Is there any real chance for the Jags to develop momentum in this tough matchup?
Yeah, probably not. I mean, like, it was a good game for Trevor Lawrence, but I'm going to need to see more of it to really believe that he can continue to string together these good games. It was his highest graded week and his highest completion percent on intermediate throws. And it was his, I believe, second highest completion percent on short throws, his second highest graded game on short throws last week. And that's really what we need to see. He has been one of the best deep ball throwers in the NFL this year. But I think both of you guys have mentioned this in previous weeks. It's like, I don't know, man, 50-yard touchdown to Brian Thomas or the game's over. If we don't hit one of those, that's the entire ball game. And for the most part, that has meant, I mean, actually, honestly, they have hit a lot of those. But even one of those in the game is almost not enough often. They really just haven't had the down-to-down consistency, which is in part Trevor Lawrence's fault, which in part I think is really bad play sequencing and bad play calling from the coaches. You know, it's a tough matchup. Do we really think they're going to travel across the pond as 3-point, just shy of 3-point underdogs to a really good Chicago defense and find that consistency? I don't know. I think this is another spot where you're hoping, 50-yard Gabe Davis touchdown, or we get sent back to America with a loss. I'm not so confident they can find that.
Traveling across the pond and risking imprisonment from the king. Just not very safe. It's very risky behavior when dealing with the old English yoke, Denny. Brian Thomas Jr., wide receiver 1, check in. I was talking about last week. I was percolating as a wide receiver 1. Then goes out, has his best game, scores an 85-yard touchdown, and I lowered him in the rankings this week.
Oh.
Yeah, I kind of get it. I looked powerfully into the numbers, and I don't know if he has like a locked in wide receiver 1 profile. Brian Thomas, 29% of the air yards. That's second to Christian Kirk, actually, who has 30%. So they're basically tied there. He has a 22% target share, which is nice, but I mean, it's not 25, 27% like we see from most wide receiver 1s. Also, Thomas only has 2 targets in the red zone this year, which is insane considering his size.
Sorry, man.
Because they don't get
it.
They don't get in
from
the
30
red
yards
zone.
out, or they don't get in. Those are the 2 plays.
Yeah, Gabe Davis naturally leads the team with 5 red zone targets.
Yuck.
Are you starting Thomas? Of course. I do think that he's going to continue to be a pretty high variance play until he gets more of the easy stuff. But here's the hint: he's not going to get more of the easy stuff.
So he needs a fatter slice of that target pie, and it's very hard to see it coming. Evan Ingram appears to finally be coming back this week. So as much as I've been loving this Brian Thomas Jr. breakout, until they start treating him, they clear as day. They just already need to be treating him as an alpha wide receiver 1.
I agree. Just on Christian Kirk with Evan Ingram coming back, I think he is locked in to come back this week. With Evan Ingram out, Christian Kirk has been targeted on 28% of his routes, which is crazy high. That rate was 13% before Ingram's injury. Kirk's slot usage has spiked over the past 3 weeks. I guess that all goes away. It's hard to say for sure, but you got to be way less bullish on Christian Kirk with Ingram back in the fold.
And you just kind of have to treat this Jags targets delineation like we don't know what it is, because we just went on an entire month with no Evan Ingram. Speaking of locked in, by the way, that's where Trevor Lawrence will be clapped into the Tower of London after his 0 touchdown performance.
You're very concerned about Trevor Lawrence's safety in the British Empire.
I'm saying it's a huge risk. You never know what these Brits are going to do, what the Redcoats are going to do to us. I'm very worried about it.
You're not over it.
I'm not worried about Caleb Williams' recent play, Kyle, where he has, as they've asked him to do less, he has done more. Shockingly, how that works. When you don't ask a rookie quarterback to do everything, he can actually maybe produce. Is this a smash spot against a really, really bad Jaguars defense? Or is that just not how the Bears want to play right now? They've had more success featuring the run the past 2 weeks.
Yeah, you pointed out this just isn't a run-of-the-mill bad Jags defense. This is probably the worst defense in the NFL at defending the pass. They're last in EPA per dropback allowed. They're dead last by a wide margin in fantasy points allowed. They've allowed the second most explosive plays to the passing game, and they have a below-average pressure rate, which I think for Caleb is really important because I think that's one thing you can expect him to struggle at is when you put him under pressure, he's going to have the light feet run around and maybe take some bad sacks. He improved on that a lot last week. But I don't know if he has to improve it again because they just don't get pressure. They allow a ton of easy plays. They don't force turnovers. The Jags defense just doesn't have really any strengths going into this game. And Caleb is finally finding his strength. So it does feel like a really good spot, even if he doesn't get there on volume, which he did a few weeks ago. He had his first 300-yard game in a pretty easy loss. Was that to the Rams, if I remember correctly? It was a really bad 360-yard garbage.
He's now had 2 300-yard games somehow. One of them was very garbage time fueled. And then one of them last week was
a legitimate, hyper efficient. This is what you want from Caleb Williams type of performance. And I think that's more likely we're going to get this week. We're like, we only got 28 attempts, but 312 yards, 2 touchdowns. He ran for 50 yards. Something like that, where I think you can slot him in as, if not a QB1 by the letter of the law, relatively close.
He's right on the periphery there. And the only reason he's not a locked in QB1 is because we're just not entirely sure of the approach, Denny. And part of that is the reason DeAndre Swift has been actually producing as they've changed their approach. And the question, of course, now is DeAndre Swift good now? ?
No. But thankfully for running backs, it doesn't matter if you're good. So the Bears in week 5 against the Rams, 12% below their expected dropback rate. In week 6, 8% below. That means that they've just gone really run heavy, which makes sense. Like from an actually like wanting to win standpoint, right? You have a good defense, right? That can shut down teams as long as your rookie quarterback doesn't get you in trouble. And, I should mention Caleb has been way, way better over the past 2 weeks. His on target rate is 75% over the past 2 weeks. It was 50% before that. So we've seen a big jump there, but yeah, I mean, DeAndre Swift, has had a really good fantasy role in this Chicago offense the entire season. And we just kept expecting him to lose it, right? Khalil Herbert, Roshan Johnson, somebody's going to come in here and take this guy's job because he stinks. But the Bears, for better or worse, have stuck with DeAndre Swift, who has 53% of the team's carries through week 5. I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but that's in line with, like, I don't know, Derrick Henry as far as, the share of, I have a Derrick Henry Swift stat that's going to make Pat vomit.
Let's go. I'm excited for this.
Yeah. So let's see. Gosh, I can't find. I'm gonna find it. Oh yeah. So 6. Okay. Oh, this is bad.
All right, punish him, Denny. Really hurt him. Hit him where it hurts.
Listen, Pat's gonna tell me to watch the game, and I will not watch the game. DeAndre Swift has the 6th most expected fantasy points among running backs. That is tied with Derrick Henry.
Took this fraud. Let's go.
No, because guess who actually converts them into real points?
Guess who goes way over the expected points?
Whatever.
So Swift, I think you still started out. I will say, because of what Kyle was talking about, Jacksonville is a pass funnel defense.
They're an everything funnel. They stink.
They're not great against the run, but they're. I think the Bears will probably attack them through the air. He's not great as far as like rush yards over expected. He's almost dead last. Devon Achane is dead last. Turns out. So I had to slip that.
I said
one in
hit
there.
Pat where it hurt, not hit me where it hurt, because that did that hurt right there.
The bank examiner's recording this whole thing.
I'm sorry to report that Devon Achane is bad now.
He needed yet another bullet point there. Real quick, let's remember some guys. I'll start. Khalil Herbert. No, I was just saying, that the dumb Twitter prompts. And I'll start. Khalil Herbert, he was never really real. 2 of the league's most confounding teams meet up in Green Bay, Wisconsin. The Packers operating as 5-point home favorites over the Cardinals. Denny Carter. Confusion abounds in this Green Bay skill core. Let's start with, does this team even want to throw the ball right now, despite their abundance of passing game weapons?
So in looking into this, I threw out the Malik Willis starts because that was very different, and Matt LaFleur masterful in those.
Was it though? It bled right into the Jordan Love starts.
No, it's true, and I don't know if Jordan Love is fully back health wise, and I think they're trying to protect him a little bit. And I say that because The Packers have been 4% below their expected pass rate since Love's return. They've been 12% under on first downs, guys. And that usually, I'm not saying it is, but usually that's a fraud alert, right? But I think that they're trying to protect Jordan Love at the moment. We mentioned on Tuesday's show, Pat, that Jordan Love hasn't been good necessarily this year. Only Anthony Richardson has been more inaccurate as a passer than Jordan Love. I think that we're going to see another run first script here for Green Bay. The Cardinals are a top 10 run funnel. Cardinals opponents are passing the ball at a league low 45% clip in neutral situations this season. I'm just kind of guarding against people being all in on I don't know, on
players who aren't even good, like Dontayvion Wicks.
On Wicks,
kind of
yeah.
thing.
Now the Packers do have a 26.5 implied total, which is crazy high, one of the highest of the week. So I take that with a grain of salt.
What's going on there? Unclear what Vegas is telling us when they say they're going to score a lot of points. Who knows what they mean by that?
Right, but I think it'll mostly be through the run game, even though Josh Jacobs is real bad.
Denny mentioned the passing game. I mentioned Dontayvion Wicks, Kyle. Is he washed now? And what does it mean with Romeo Doubs returning from his 1-game suspension?
Washed might be a little much. I mean, we gambled. We said last week that this is a high variance play. He earns downfield targets. That's what he does. He earned a bunch of downfield targets. He didn't hit on them. And then we went, oh, what happened? I can't believe I didn't roll the dice and hit 12. Not going to hit 12 all the time, but he did do that exact thing that we referenced that he would do. He had 44% of the team's air yards, a quarter of the team's targets, 2 near misses from Jordan Love, who I was told was good. 2 near misses from Jordan Love that would have gained 25 plus yards. We play this game and sometimes you get burned, but I think if you're going to go out there and earn a whole bunch of air yards, and I still think your quarterback is good, to be fair, I'm going to play you again.
Were we playing Romeo Doubs? Felt like kind of a missing out. He does things that other guys in the receiver corps can do, but it seems like they only trust him to do.
Yeah, they trust him a lot. I mean, they run him on every route. They target him near the end zone in the red zone, and they target him when they need first downs. But I just don't know what they're going to bring him back to do this week, given the clear rift between him and the team. It's an unknowable thing for me, who is mostly based in the spreadsheets. I'm certainly not playing him, though. That's what I'd say.
Yeah.
Denny, was it actually a good performance for Kyler Murray in week 5, where it wasn't really a great passing performance, but it was a good fantasy performance? He got the 1 passing touchdown. He finally had a big day rushing, 7 carries for 83 yards and a touchdown. Still not doing a whole lot outside of the opening drives, which are, of course, scripted. Anything that you saw that actually made you more confident in Kyler Murray last weekend?
No, I mean, he totally.
Oh, come on. He held the finger up 5 yards after the line of scrimmage, and that didn't make you more confident. It might not have made you more right, but it certainly made me more confident.
I actually didn't. When I saw him hold his finger up, I was like, what is he doing? He's wide. There's nobody there. Okay. Only 6.5 yards per attempt last week against San Francisco. That's par for the course for Kyler Murray. 19th among quarterbacks in completion rate over expected. No, I mean, the answer is it was not a good performance. I think one of the differences last week, and it was good for the Arizona offense in general, was that Kyler Murray only took a sack on 1 of his 10 pressures. Headed into week 5, he had a nearly 30% pressure to sack rate. So he cleaned that up. If he can keep doing that and keep this Cardinals offense kind of on time, I think it'll be good for everybody involved.
It's not really been his thing ever, but
no,
we'll see. This time it might count with Kyler Murray. Did it count in Trey McBride's return? Another quiet game, Kyle. 6 catches for 53 yards, but a lot of people would take that as their quiet game. We haven't had a ceiling type week though from Trey McBride. How are things shaking out right now in this Cardinals skill core? Where Trey's back, Michael Wilson is commanding a lot of targets behind Trey McBride and Marvin Harrison Jr. Just what's the lay of the land here?
Yeah, Trey McBride, as you said, you take that as your floor game. We've seen a lot of floor games and not a ton of ceiling games from Trey McBride, who also missed a game with a concussion, to be fair. But all of the nerd spreadsheet stuff says that he is an extremely talented tight end. He leads all tight ends in targets per route run. He leads all tight ends in target share. He's 12th in yards per route run, 8th in PFF receiving grade. All of the ways that we can measure, is this guy good at football? say he's good at football. When we measure it by fantasy points, you don't see nearly as much of that. These two things have to converge at some point, especially when you look at this team. And although they may be, quote, balanced, it's not like a Atlanta from last year or a Steelers from this year, obviously, where talent doesn't have the opportunity to shine through. You know, Kyler Murray's fine at worst. Like, he doesn't appear to be great, but he's not terrible either. And this team doesn't want. Are you saying he's terrible on record?
Oh, he's getting there.
He's not.
Okay.
He's not.
He's terrible because he's an underachiever. Like, he's terrible because he should so clearly be better. And that's what makes Kyler so
I feel that in my gut. Yeah. I don't think he's a terrible quarterback. He's terribly frustrating because he could be a great quarterback.
He should clearly be better than he is.
I know, man. He feels like a guy who should be a top 5 quarterback every week. And he's a top 5 quarterback like once a month. And that like sucks. It feels bad in your gut. But in terms of what he gives the offense, he's fine. The offense is balanced, but they're not drastically run heavy to the point where it doesn't matter how many routes you run. Trey McBride runs all the routes, earns all the targets, seems really good at football, just hasn't given us a ceiling game yet. I'm counting on that to come at some point. You can't bench him, and I still think you should frankly rank him as a top 3-ish weekly option. On the other hand, what was that?
Yeah, I've got him in the top 3.
Like, what else are you going to do? Like, who else is even out there? It's Kelsey, Bowers, McBride, and just a whole bunch of nothing, man. There is nothing out there, so you got to keep ranking him. Marv is doing the thing Denny hates where he earns a bunch of air yards, and to be fair, he's been volatile because of it. He is 8th in the NFL in air yards, 5th in end zone targets, which is really good. That's kind of helped pad the floor, is even on his quiet games. He's been able to get in the end zone a decent amount of times, but it might be a bumpy ride, to be fair, because a lot of his targets come in high volatility situations.
If I were Kyler, I would simply just easily complete more passes to Marvin Harrison Jr. The Titans and Colts meet up in Nashville with continued quarterback drama for both clubs, Kyle. We'll start with the Titans, who are somewhat surprisingly sticking with Will Levis coming out of their bye. I believe he's practicing in full. No real injury concerns there. Is there any hope to be found in this passing attack right now? Or is Will just going to keep rendering Ridley and DeAndre Hopkins irrelevant for fantasy? If he was ever going to go off, it has to be against the Colts, who might have the worst defense in the entire league.
Yeah, I went looking for hope. I frankly don't think Levis is really a long-term NFL starter. But you said, is there any hope? I found some. If you're a Titans fan listening to this, he's 7th in PFF's accuracy throw rate. He's 4th in CPOE. And I think a lot of his numbers look so bad because he's actually done the down-to-down stuff somewhat well. And then he just makes a back-breaking mistake all the freaking time. And that's enough to kill an offense. And that's mostly what we've seen. DeAndre Hopkins has been targeted on over 30% of his routes over the past 2 weeks. He's running half the routes. It's fringe wide receiver 3-4 stuff, but he looks as talented as a wide receiver too. Doesn't matter if they don't run him out there all the time. And Calvin Ridley's kind of the opposite. He runs all the routes. He cannot draw targets on it. So is there hope? I don't know. I don't think you can change the stripes on this tiger of Will Levis having the physical attributes of a starting NFL quarterback and not having it all up top to do it.
This week might honestly decide his NFL career because he's coming out of his bye after a tough first month of the season. The matchup doesn't really get better than the Colts. And if he just has another Will Levis type start, I think he's going to lose his job either next week or very soon.
Agreed.
And he's be in career trouble if he does not rock. The Indianapolis Colts, Denny, is a Tony Pollard RB1 season for the Titans where the snaps have not gone below 60%. They haven't gone above 67%, though. He seems very locked in there. He's been producing more than Tyjae Spears. Been getting big carry totals of late. Is he going to make a run at RB1 status?
I think so. They seem to have committed to Pollard as the 1A option over Spears, and that's probably the right choice because our guy Pollard is all the way back, folks. 4 yards after contact per rush.
Too late for Rotoworld, but
it is too late, unfortunately. But turns out a broken leg takes a while to heal. 4 yards after contact per rush. That's up from 2.8 in 2023. I really do think that he's at least like 90% of the way back to his Dallas form pre leg break. It's worth noting that last time we saw the Titans was against Miami, and they were 20% below their expected drop back rate. Insanely run first. So maybe Spears and Pollard can kind of maybe get there together against the Colts, depending on game script. And Colts opponents are 10% below their expected pass rate this season. One of the, if not the most extreme run funnel in the NFL. I kind of think that the Titans are going to try to run as much as possible here. And that could easily lead to around like 20 touches for Pollard.
When I made this show sheet, the Colts were 1-point favorites. Now the Titans are 2.5-point favorites, which speaks to the extreme injury uncertainty with the Colts, who the only thing we know for sure is that Michael Pittman is out with this back injury. We don't know who the quarterback's going to be. We don't even know who the running back's going to be. It doesn't seem like it's going to be Jonathan Taylor, but it also seems like it might not be Trey Sermon.
Yeah.
So basically, my long way of saying we can't even really evaluate the Colts on the show right now. We just don't even know. I mean, even Josh Downs was not practicing on Wednesday. We get updates Thursday, but the Colts, it's basically keep it locked to rotoworld.com and try to follow these injury situations because they are banged the heck up. We do think we would, of course, if we're Josh Downs and he does play, we prefer Joe Flacco. It takes us no pleasure to say this.
Tyler Goodson is very interesting if Sermon's out.
Yes. The Commanders hop on the bus to Baltimore as roughly 6.5-point road underdogs. Denny Carter. The Ravens shut down Josh Allen 2 weeks ago, but have otherwise struggled mightily against the pass. Is this a potential eruption spot for Jaden Daniels in a game where he's forecasted to have to throw the ball?
I think so. Yeah. So tomorrow, in the final defense report, I'm going to feature this game, and I really do think that the Commanders will have no choice but to drop back more than they want to here. They're, like you said, they're heavy underdogs. They're on the road, which means that they have to go about 45 minutes north to Baltimore.
Well, except for in DC, that takes 3 hours, but
it does. The only way to get there is via helicopter, actually.
Wow.
So and so I do think that this could create some target volume, some kind of unforeseen target volume for McLaurin, who is just like soaking in the targets and air yards. 70+% of the air yards over the past couple weeks for Washington. So, good for him. Good for Zach Ertz. I know that.
Can you stop talking about this guy, man?
The young people don't want to hear it, but Zach Ertz is a thing. He's being targeted on almost 20% of his routes. If they have to drop back a lot, he benefits. And I'm down bad in a couple leagues, guys. Down real bad. And Zach Ertz is looking awfully good.
Sounds like your season's over.
No, it's actually in the Apex League where I'm leading.
Yeah,
I'm leading the
over.
entire league.
I noticed that. Talk about like signs of the apocalypse. Denny Carter leading the Apex League. Give me a break.
I won it in 2019. No one remembers that.
Yeah, nothing's happened since 2019.
Since 2019, it's been quite bleak.
Since 2019, the entire world's been turned upside down. But go off.
Go off. Oh man, that's funny. Yeah. So I think you can get excited about something. Maybe Diami Brown. Maybe you get crazy in some deep leagues. They're going to pass a lot.
Denny, Zach Ertz or Mark Andrews?
Oh yeah. Ertz.
Easy.
Ertz. Mark Andrews might have more catches than Ertz still, even despite
nobody
supposedly
does.
good
Not
usage.
even. There's
Ertz.
no way.
There's no way to find out. That's
no
one
way
thing.
to find out. We can't find out. I'm looking real quick. Zach Ertz. He's got 17 catches. Mark Andrews probably has like 11 or something.
Oh, there's no difference between those two numbers.
That's a 70% increase.
Yeah, you round up to 20. It's basically 20.
Oh, okay.
Kyle, the Commanders. So I'm talking about the Ravens can't defend the pass. Commanders cannot defend anything. So it opens up a world of possibilities for the Ravens. How do we expect them to approach the Commanders after they went really, really run heavy to defeat pass heavy to defeat the Bengals last weekend?
Yeah, they were pass heavy last week, but they were also dragged kicking and screaming to get into a game where they actually threw the football. They were playing from behind from just before halftime until the final 2 minutes of regulation and still logged a pass rate over expected just below 0. It was like -1%. And that is mostly a function of the fact that when you are losing at halftime, you're pretty much losing for the rest of the game. You are expected to throw the football nearly every play. And they did do that to a degree, but I don't really want to give them a ton of credit and say they were going into that game fighting for a shootout. They're not. I don't think they're playing for shootouts, and they're 6.5-point favorites, and they're at home against the Washington defense. As you said, you can beat them in either way, but you can beat them with the run. So I think we're going to need some magic from Jaden Daniels, which we've gotten plenty of, but we need another magical game from Jaden Daniels to really get the shootout potential because the Ravens don't generally want to play that style of football game.
Denny, Commanders backfield check-in. I was going to say with Austin Eckler back last week, which he was back, but it's hard to kind of do a Commanders backfield check-in because we don't know if Bijan Robinson is going to play this week. He seems like genuinely questionable with his knee issue.
Yeah. I mean, he wasn't right last week. Only had 12 snaps, 7 carries, of course, 2 touchdowns because Bijan Robinson never doesn't get away with it. has never not gotten away with it.
All right, well, he's good. The thing is, good players get away with it.
I had a lot of Jaden Daniels last week in DFS, and I was upset.
I
Anyway, Austin Eckler 6 carries, and then Jeremy McNichols 7 carries. So McNichols would be probably the main early down back if Robinson is out. Austin Eckler is basically the only guy running routes into this backfield, as far as I can tell. No way to know, no way to find out. But so I guess if you think Washington is going to be forced to drop back quite a bit, then I guess Eckler is possibly interesting from a PPR perspective if Robinson is out.
I think we talked about this on both of our shows so far this week, but I'm assuming no fresh Mark Andrews copium, where like the good game wasn't even good. Basically,
It wasn't good. No.
Yeah, exactly. I think it was 4 for 55.
4 for 55 as he got outsnapped by Isaiah Likely and of course outscored 3-0 by Isaiah Likely and Charlie Kohler.
Yeah, he ran less than half the routes. He's just a part-time player. We just have to come to grips with the fact that they have used him as a, like, not part-time as he runs 60-70% of the routes. He's not out there all the time. He's out there less than half the time for passing plays in back-to-back-to-back weeks, 2 of those weeks being 0 catch games. That's just who he is at this point, and kind of have to come to grips with it.
Have to come to grips with the fact that it's never been more over.
Oh, it's so over.
For Mark Andrews, where I was scrolling down the sheet to find something else. Of course, the Nico Collins-less Texans host the quarterback swapping Patriots as only touchdown home favorites. Kyle seems a little late. Road favorites. So it finally happened, and it's Drake Maye time in Boston, Massachusetts. What, if anything, do we expect to change? I talked about this. I became the first person ever on this podcast to podcast with JJ Zachariason. He asked me what I expected from the Drake Maye change. And it's weird because we know like it'll be better and that he is better and it's livelier, and yet like nothing realistically will change unless you think something might change. Kyle, what are we looking at here?
Yeah, I to your point, there's a reason they're at home in this game and they're still projected to lose by a touchdown. Generally, quarterbacks' first starts aren't going to go particularly well, but I think over the long run, we should expect this offense to be far more explosive. Not because we think Drake Maye is going to come out and immediately be one of the more explosive quarterbacks in the NFL. They had easily, it's really them and the Browns, the least explosive offense in the NFL. Up to this point, they're 24th in deep throw rate. It's below average, but not terrible. The 31st in explosive play rate on passing plays. Brissett's thrown it past the sticks at the second lowest rate. He's not even trying for first downs. And he's got a time to throw of over 2.8 seconds. It's top 12 in the NFL. And you expect guys who hold the football longer, they're hunting for big plays. They're waiting. Someone's got to get open. He's got the lowest ADOT of anyone with a time to throw over 2.8.
He's just chilling. Jacoby Brissett was just kind of hanging out. Yeah,
he's hanging out there. He's just he was just back there waiting to take a sack.
He likes the lifestyle.
He's like, oh man, this suits me. I'm hanging out here. I look good in the Patriots blue, and bone crushing sack. There it is. He holds the football. He doesn't make big plays. He doesn't get first downs. It just hasn't offered really any sort of hope for this offense. Whether or not we think that Drake Maye turns things around in a dramatic fashion, you're probably right, Pat, that it's going to be a slow process, but he's going to give us spike weeks. And Brissett is not even playing a style of football that is capable of generating spike weeks, let alone him being able to do so as a physical talent. So maybe it's not this week, maybe it's not next, but we'll get some spike week performance going forward that Brissett just wasn't even going to try and give us.
That is the biggest change, is they're just going to be an easier watch. And that maybe too, like Jalen Polk was the guy with upside. Maybe he'll spike a week occasionally now. Maybe Kendrick Bourne used to be a spiked week player occasionally. We don't, moment to moment, not much is going to change. But hopefully, they're at least a little more fun.
By the way, Polk changed the pronunciation of his name.
Are you kidding? He hasn't even had a good game yet.
Jalen, I believe.
Well, he got screwed out of a touchdown, which is kind of like having a good game.
No, right. He did. Yeah, he had to change it after that.
Jalen?
Yeah. I believe it's Jalen.
I'm going to doubt that. It's not a bad one. I wish we would have had a good game first, but it's cool.
It is unique. Denny, what's also unique.
You got it. Go.
Losing your number one receiver. It's very bad.
That's not unique. Everyone's freaking doing that.
True. I know they have lost Nico Collins, who was becoming the wide receiver 1 overall in fantasy. I was speculating earlier in the week. You're like, Nico was a quick healer last year. He only missed 1, and he's on injured reserve. And so he's out at least 4 games. Does this mean wheels up for Tank Dell, Denny, who's been a non-entity so far? Steph Diggs, who, again, like he was with the Bills last year. He's getting like 10 targets, but not doing a whole lot with them. Just not the player he was in his prime. How do we expect things to look without Nico Collins?
I mean, yeah, Diggs is going to eat as far as targets go. He's going to be a total scam, short area stuff, which is what he signed up for, I think. But Nico Collins, 40% of the team's air yards, 23% of the targets through week 5. So that's a huge gap to fill. Tank Dell most closely profiles Nico Collins' role in this offense. So Nico Collins has averaged 12 air yards per target this season. Tank Dell is at 10.3 air yards per target. So I would guess that the deep stuff will start going to Tank Dell mostly. Xavier Hutchinson, I guess, will get involved. Maybe this means some more looks for Dalton Schultz. So like if you're really down horrific at tight end, you can go there. I saw you had Stroud ranked at 13, Pat, and I do think that's fine, and it's probably where I would do it too. But I just struggle to get excited over this matchup
It's tough
over him without Nico Collins. Like I feel like I would start if I had him and Caleb on the same team. I'd start Caleb this week.
And that was the double. I do have Caleb ranked ahead of Stroud, which I didn't in the very first iteration of my ranks earlier this week, but I got Stroud over Baker against the Saints, which was kind of a tough one. We know going down Narrative Street, Mike Evans' struggles against the Saints and Marshawn Lattimore. But the bigger fear for Baker for me is this: they're just not going to be passing a lot, playing a team, starting a rookie quarterback. And then it's Geno, which I could see arguments for Geno over Stroud. Then it's Justin Fields, which I'm just not going to do that. And Stroud, it's just kind of like, I'm going to keep betting on the talent. But I agree. It does not – it sets up as a QB 13 week. You're not ranking CJ Stroud as the QB 13, like he has a path to QB4 though.
It feels real bad. I'll say.
Yeah. No, it feels bad. So we'll see there. But what's also bad is the injury situations in these backfield. Ramondre Stevenson, didn't actually get benched. Well, he did play under 50% of the snaps, so it's because he hurt his calf in the fourth quarter. Keep an eye on that one. Antonio Gibson, of course, be a plug and play like RB 30. Still would not get in the top 24, I don't think. And with Texans backfield is just like inscrutable right now. Joe Mixon, the sprain got too low. So now it is so high that he cannot play for 5 weeks. And Cam Akers has not produced in his absence. Daria Gumbawale somehow featured last week, but we got Damian Pierce coming back. So these backfields, got to keep it locked to Rotoworld, man. Just we'll tell you what's happening. We'll tell you more about week 6 when we come back right after this. One of the biggest matchups of the college football season kicks off on Saturday night. Both the Ohio State and Oregon have national title aspirations, and they'll battle it out under the lights in Eugene. Coverage of the Top 5 Showdown begins at 7 p.m. Eastern on NBC and Peacock. Kyle's already got his his Dodge Ram with this huge Buckeyes flag in the back that I'm not sure how it's even secured.
Buckeyes helmet for the audio listeners. I'm holding a little mini Buckeyes helmet that has 2014 national champs on it. Again, that was the year before I went to school, and they haven't done anything since. I'm not bitter.
Kyle peeling out of every parking lot with his Buckeyes flag in his car, which I witness all the time in my St. Louis suburb. Like, why?
I was going to say, I live in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Why do so many people have Ohio State flags?
The gray F-150s with a red stripe down the middle is like once every 8 cars in North Carolina.
Ohio State fans are known for their subtlety. By the way, as much as I'd like to say Ohio State was a fraud, Oregon looks like by far the biggest fraud so far. I really hope Ohio State takes them to the cleaners. The improving Falcons visit the fading Panthers as 6-point road favorites. Denny Carter thereabouts. After that 500-yard week 5, is it safe to say Kirk Cousins and the Falcons' passing attack is all the way back?
Yeah, but things broke just right, and I wrote about it in the regression files if folks want to check that out. Things broke just right for just a crazy pass-heavy Falcons game. They were way over their expected drop-back rate for the second straight week. I think against the Panthers, who have just an abysmal run defense, and with all this talk of like, well, where's Bijan Robinson? Where is he is not involved in this 500-yard game.
I was told he was good.
I was too. And I was told Tyler Algier is good. Where is he? And I do think that they're going to try to establish it more here. So, okay. Kyle Pitts still not good. It was still not good last week. I know he had 80,
buddy.
88 yards.
The check cash is all the same.
Listen, 15 fantasy points and people are throwing parties at their houses. Okay. Come on, man. Like this guy, you gotta have a little shame.
No, I'm never.
Listen,
I have been
listen.
beaten into submission.
No. Listen to me. Hear me out. If Kyle Pitts, is quarterback, passes for the 15th most single game yards in NFL history, Pitts is going to have a pretty decent game.
So targeted on 14% of his routes. I mean that's bleak. That's bleak. I'm sorry. So all that volume that we got last week against Tampa, I think a lot of that is gone here against the Panthers. I think they're going to try to run it a lot. I think you should feel really good about starting Robinson, even though last week sucked. I get that. But be careful with Pitts. That's all I'm saying. Just be careful with Pitts. Don't get crazy with Ray McLeod. You're starting London. You're starting Mooney. But it's not going to be the same as it was last week. I think it could actually be very, very different. Because remember, this Falcons team was among the run heaviest in the league until 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, they don't want to truly open it up. And to be fair, when you play the Panthers, it's just the ultimate. Let's get out of here, man. Like, how do you do that?
I mean, they just want to leave. They just want to beat them by 30 and leave. Yeah.
Just run the ball. And Kyle, Denny kind of alluded to it. So like the Bijan apocalypse last week, his snap share actually rose like closer to 70 than it was the previous week.
70 on the dot, exactly. Yeah. You make a good point that although it has been frustrating, it was really 1 week of frustration and a bunch of weeks of good usage that he didn't just quite cash in on. And last week was a return to normalcy in terms of, as you said, 70% of the snaps, 65% of the carries, both of which are top 5, top 10 numbers for running backs. It's really one, quote, blip on the radar, albeit when he's gotten the volume, he hasn't quite scored because he hasn't been this elite playmaker yet. But as you guys pointed out, it doesn't take much to look like a playmaker against the Panthers. This is the spot of all spots for Bijan. So maybe we will get frustrated at some point again in the future. This is not that game. This is hopefully the breakout game for him.
Denny, what has started to go wrong for the Andy Dalton Panthers, which, is kind of self-explanatory. They're starting Andy Dalton, but he had a great first start. Then he didn't do anything against the Bengals defense, which really bad defense. Didn't do anything. He's a bit strong. The last week against a tough Bears defense, he really didn't do anything. Is this already over before it even started? Or
I don't think so. I mean, the Bears are really tough.
I don't think so. Then 4 seconds of silence as you try to think of some reason why it's
no.
Over.
I'm looking at some numbers.
You can hear the pitch on the way he said just rising too. That's a liar's pitch if I've ever heard.
It's actually fine.
Exactly.
The Panthers dropped back on 72% of their plays last week. That will pay off for Deontay Johnson and maybe like Xavier Legette if he's okay. You're not starting Andy Dalton. Let's not get crazy. I mean, super flex wise, maybe. But yeah, I think if you thought the Panthers were going to thrive against the Bears, I don't really know what to tell you. Falcons are a much easier matchup. I think that they can get there. I think keep starting Deontay Johnson no matter what. He's taking in a lot of targets, a decent amount of air yards. So beyond that, Chuba Hubbard is a must start for now. He's involved in the pass game and just enough, I think, that he can not be totally game script sensitive.
Xavier Legette, by the way, practicing in full after a shoulder bang. You don't really want to be relying on him as your wide receiver 4, but if you need to, he's going to be playing. Darnell Mooney has the knee issue, but he's practicing too. He seems fine. But I got Darnell Mooney in the top 24. I hate to admit it, but
don't like that.
I'd already been ranking him around the wide receiver 30.
I think he's like the wide receiver 13 in points per game. Like you're not doing anything crazy.
He's produced, but I do worry. I don't know if I really baked in enough that they're just not going to want to pass.
Yeah, in your heart, does Darnell Mooney feel like a top 24 receiver?
No one does anymore.
I can't speak to like rankings because that's Pat's thing, but I will say that like last week it was a mirage of sorts for Mooney.
Well, it's been several weeks.
Well, what I mean is like this huge voluminous pass.
All right, smart guy. Let's see here. Darnell Mooney let me get on my binoculars. Jamison Williams.
I probably go Jameson.
He's like 3 catches since August. Darnell Mooney or Wan'Dale Robinson.
Okay, Mooney.
Well, Neighbors is probably out, so Wan'Dale.
Darnell or Tank, folks.
Oh, Tank, folks. Tank.
What? No. What, you put some respect on
Pat, you can play good players. Just play a good player.
No, listen, Pat, I'm a Mooney guy. I have him on a lot of best ball teams. That's right. Bank Examiner. Get off my lawn, please. And so I'm a Mooney guy. I'm just telling you, this week it just doesn't look great. Now, of course, Mooney's going to get away with it. Of course, one of his 3 targets is going to be a 90-yard touchdown, and I'm going to look like an idiot. I'm just telling you.
Well, of course, fraudulent Kirk Cousins will also keep the Panthers in the game, so it'll all be fine.
Oh, yeah. Well.
The Lions and Cowboys square off in Dallas, except for I always say Dallas. They play in Arlington. That's how everything goes in Texas. With the Cowboys operating as unusual home underdogs, Kyle Dvorchak, is this a good spot for what has become a fragile Dallas passing attack? We've seen some progress in recent weeks, though. But basically, highest total of the week. Can Dak and the passing attack get home against this Lions defense?
Yeah, it's not the best spot in terms of what specifically teams have done against Detroit. They're not good against the pass. They're 21st in EPA per dropback allowed, but they face the 10th lowest pass rate over expected. And the Cowboys have been just below 0 pass rate over expected, which is still top half of the league because so few teams are even finding the ability to pass. But it's not like this is the shootout of all shootouts. I will say, if Vegas says this is a 52.5 point total, I'm not really going to shy away from it. I think Dak is a clear QB1 if this game is going to even come close to 53 points, whether or not it's the easiest matchup or the most pass-friendly matchup. I'm gonna trust the large amounts of money going to the West.
Yeah, so hopefully, and two, we love the emergence of Jalen Tolbert, and that kind of stabilizes the entire thing. I feel like for the Cowboys, they needed a third option. I think they have it. Denny, elsewhere in Dallas, the backfield is the Dowdle backfield takeover complete. It's tempting to say yes, but he only just last week hit 50% of the snaps, and only just. It was exactly 50% of the snaps. Is this takeover not quite what it appears, or does the snap share not matter as much as the overwhelming touch dominance?
I think. Where's your God now, Denny? Where is he? Up in the sky? In the ground?
I actually cannot locate my God at the moment. There's this weird thing though, like I want to say, oh yeah, like Dowdle's in a great spot, like he's getting all this work, but he's not even running the most routes in the backfield. That goes to Hunter Lupke last week. I'm looking at you guys for confirmation because I had to look at.
Yeah, that is correct. That is correct. I don't have the numbers in front of me.
He's a fullback.
He's a fullback, exactly. But they're using him as like a de facto passing downs back. And
so what?
I get it. Like, look,
Rico's doesn't touch the ball though. When Rico's in there, listen, Rico's here to get touches every time he plays and not do anything else, and he's all out of the other stuff. So every snap he plays, he gets.
Maybe he'll chew some gum. Then I don't know. I mean, I think you're probably playing Dowdle, but don't get too crazy. He kind of
probably playing Rico. It's the highest total game of the week, folks.
Yeah, and the Cowboys are going to get stomped, man.
No, they're not. The Lions are frauds, too. It's fine.
Oh,
listen, I'll believe the Lions are good, as I told you, after their 4th straight NFC championship.
I was going to say, Pat, I hate to tell you this, but when
listen, I know they quote reached the NFC championship game last year. I know they quote been one of the best teams in the NFC this year, but they're frauds.
Pat, I hate to tell you this, but when I'm in a being a fraud competition, and my competition is the Dallas Cowboys, you are screwed, man. If you want to show up to the being a fraud competition, you do not want to be in Arlington, Texas.
That's a checkmate. And the Lions are unfortunately not frauds. They're very good. I was wrong about them last year. Is this a Gibbs, David Montgomery eruption spot, by the way, Kyle? The Cowboys' run defense has supposedly improved. It's because they faced 2 really bad running backs back-to-back. Are Gibbs and David Montgomery just going to go crazy in this game?
Yeah, it feels like a pretty good spot. Lots of points to be scored, but your team is the favorite, and that's the perfect game for Detroit's backfield specifically, is that they're both going to need to score, but you'll be doing it from the lead the entire time. That's generally how they like to play football. They're a good offense. They just need to really be pushed. And in this game, a field goal favorite, they're probably not going to be pushed in that sense. They're not going to be underdogs. And as you pointed out, albeit sure, they've improved recently. The Cowboys defense still on the year. They're dead last in rush EPA allowed. They've faced the 3rd lowest pass rate over expected. So teams have seen that they're bad at defending the run, and they run the football. You know who loves to do that? Detroit. So yeah, this is like fringe. You can rank both of them as RB1s territory.
Yeah.
I do have them both ranked as RB1s, which does not make me feel great. But the Cowboys were hemorrhaging running game production until they faced Devin Singletary and Najee Harris. So I'm a little skeptical that they have turned things around. Denny, any post-bye hope for Sam Laporta, who was one of fantasy's biggest disappointments heading into week 5? He's been banged up. Is that maybe where to hang our copium hats, that he's going to be healthier, and just that he's a good player who can't keep producing such paltry returns?
Well, I mean, we talked in the preseason that like the Jameson Williams emergence, which was very clear that was happening, it was going to eat into somebody's workload, and it turns out to be Laporta. St. Brown still has a 32% target share, so he's going to be fine. He actually has more targets through 4 games this year than he did last year, which I was a little surprised about, but I think that speaks to his role in the offense. Sam Laporta, it's really bad. He is only being targeted on 13% of his routes. Was way higher last year. The Lions are scoring all of the touchdowns in the red zone on the ground. I don't know. Maybe it's the injury. His route participation is fine. But you can't have it all. Like in a run heavy offense, it's a small pie to split up, right? So you give a little bit to Jameson Williams. It has to come from somewhere. I think it has come from Laporta.
Maybe it's some of the Christian McCaffrey problem that we saw last year with the 49ers. Like, why does George Kittle have 2 catches for 28 yards when I know he's elite? Maybe that's some of what Laporta's dealing with. We'll be right back after this. This Sunday evening, don't miss Joe Burrow and the Bengals traveling east for a date with the New York Giants. Coverage of the matchup in the Meadowlands begins at 7 p.m. Eastern only on NBC and Peacock. Joe Burrow dying to take 7 sacks in this game. The embattled Bengals visit New Jersey as roughly 3.5-point favorites against the Giants, Denny. The Bengals have the fantasy points. Sure, they score fantasy points, but do they win? But the Giants have the intrigue. Is this improving New York offense maybe worthy of a Daniel Jones stream versus a Bengals defense that has not been good?
I think so. I mean, I'm not going to bore the audience.
Even with Malik Neighbors seeming like he's not coming back.
Yeah, he's not practicing as of Thursday. It's, really like concerning from a personal standpoint at this point. 2 weeks removed from a concussion at the end of the game against the Cowboys on Thursday night. So, I guess hopefully he'll be able to play, but I think that we have to bank on him not playing. Daniel Jones was fine last week without Neighbors. He's providing just enough rushing.
Neighbors was good.
I was told Steph could shoot, and he can't. I saw him last night actually, and so Wandale is obviously a thing, but I think Daniel Jones, there's enough rushing opportunity for him. This game looks like a possible back and forth type affair. So I think you could feel pretty good about throwing him into a super flex lineup or maybe streaming him over CJ Stroud.
Well, pretty good is strong. Pretty good's pretty strong.
But did you hear what I said?
I did. I wouldn't even remember.
I really wish Mahomes was playing so we could do that. You could play him over Mahomes.
Oh, yeah. You play him over.
Easy Mahomes. Mahomes, listen, I told Denny, as you heard on the show, you guys keep ceding me the high ground on the best players of their generation at position.
You're on the high ground with 0 fantasy points. You're up there.
Folks, the guy is bound for a touchdown avalanche. The regression's coming. He cannot keep running this cold in the red zone. Guess how many other quarterbacks can finish in the top 20 with 0 touchdowns? There's one. His name's Pat Mahomes.
He's the only one. He's the only one who's ever done it, folks.
He is. Actually, don't look it up. Don't look it up, man. Yeah, I'll just keep taking all this free real estate. Next thing, Justin Jefferson's not even good. I'm like, well, what if he is?
You're taking real estate that the Atlantic Ocean is reclaiming as we speak. You're it's free beach land. Guys, it's going to property value.
Just absolutely dying to bet against the winner of back-to-back Super Bowls.
We all agree he's good, really Pat. Where are my damn fantasy points?
They're nowhere.
They're down league-wide, and they're coming. Yeah, the guy who can immediately conjure a 100-yard game out of Juju Smith-Schuster is not going to score any fantasy points.
He didn't in the 100-yard game from Juju Smith-Schuster.
He was QB 18. That's fine.
Oh, Christ.
That's what I drafted him for.
It's only 15 spots behind where I drafted him.
What? I had him ranked as the QB 18. I don't know where you guys had him.
This is actually, it's a problem of our expectations. We thought he was going to be the QB 17, and us idiots. We're just
keep giving me the high ground on Pat.
I can't believe I cannot believe I actually conceded and and capitulated to you guys.
I'm going to depart from Denny's our plane, or we're splitting, because I agree with what Pat said on Tuesday's show. The fact that you lost wide receiver 1, 2, and some other guys is not good for Mahomes. If I'm being honest.
I mean,
that is what happened.
I spent all off season being like, he's mid, whatever. And you guys are like, no, he's going to go crazy. It's mad Mahomes. And I'm like, no, it can't be. But then I felt compelled to draft him.
He's still going to easily.
Next game.
No, Chase Brown versus Zach Moss. Zach Moss not practicing, Kyle.
Yeah, I mean, Chase Brown started to take over the backfield last week, out-carried Zach Moss, who got banged up late in the game, so something...
And is not practicing, at least as of Wednesday. I'm not sure.
But he's not practicing, so let's just say he plays. I think you pretty much just have to project them for a 50-50 split, and one of these players can break a long touchdown on any play, and the other one is Zach Moss. So, I don't know. Which one do you want to start? Chase Brown.
Yeah, Chase Brown pushing for top 12 status as Zach Moss does not play. Yeah. Zach Moss is on the wrong side of question marks. He came back, quote unquote, from the ankle injury, but it was the most obvious ever, like adrenaline fueled. Like,
yes, it was.
After a high ankle.
That's funny, yeah.
It did not look good. And it was a classic. How is he out here? And then
he immediately was like, nope.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So I actually do not think he'll play. Devin Singletary trending towards playing, I think. I can't really remember.
Literally, that's the words of Brian Dable. I think he said trending in the right direction. So your subconscious was correct there. But like,
Tyrone Tracy in the top 24, and you can't do it if Singletary's coming back. I think Tracy's going to take control of the backfield, but I'm ranking Singletary higher this week.
Agree with all that.
Yeah, I feel like Singletary is over, and I'm a Singletary guy.
Yeah, I can't remember which one of you was with. I think it was Kyle. There's a big difference about when you open the door. I don't know what with a rookie versus like a sophomore. Like, you have a rookie come in and they're immediately better than you. That's bad news. Like a sophomore, they may be like, whatever, is this a good game? Like the rookie, like Tyrone Tracy had not gotten a chance to really show off yet, and he got the chance immediately.
He was fantastic. Like per the spreadsheets, per the eye test, whatever you want to do. I mean, Tracy looked legit. Like it is. I'm telling you. It's over for Singletary. I don't care if he gets the start this week. It's over.
Devin Singletary is the most famous undead running back zombie there is, though, in the NFL. So we shall see. The road-tripping Tampa Bay Buccaneers visit the downtrodden New Orleans Saints. I would say surprisingly modest road favorites, Kyle, in the 3 to 4 point range. Just how in trouble is an already struggling Saints offense without Derek Carr as rookie Spencer Rattler makes his first career start.
Yep, they're screwed. The only thing I feel good about is that Spencer Rattler was immediately on the podium like, Chris Olave's pretty good. I want to throw that guy the football. I kind of liked his vibes when he said that. But in terms of what we can expect from a day 3 rookie making his first start over the past 23 years and a few weeks, day 3 rookies making their first start have averaged 178 passing yards, 6.2 IPA. As expected, these lowly drafted quarterbacks.
So you said a 6.2 IPA, which is what you probably will need to enjoy watching Spencer.
Oh no, you are looking at a 9.3 triple IPA, dry hops. You got to get all the fixins, buddy. For this
How
game,
can you even make a beer over 10%?
I didn't know that.
That's the neighborhood we're in, though. We should not me, my personal bias. We as a fantasy community or just prognosticators of the NFL shouldn't have a lot of faith in Spencer Rattler or anyone making their first start, given the NFL's preconceived opinion of them, that they were not one of the, 150 something pick, that they're not one of the 150 most valuable players when he plays the most valuable position. And PFF's grading kind of agrees with this. He was one of the lowest graded preseason quarterbacks. He was the 62nd best passer in college football last year. It's not great when they're, that's pretty low. And a lot of the guys ahead of him don't make the NFL. The year before that, he was outside the top 100. He was a guy who film nerds absolutely loved. Who loves film?
I have no idea why. It makes
who loves film? The NFL, frankly. The NFL still really obsesses over what a guy's film looked like. And the most film-obsessed people of all, the NFL evaluators, unanimously agreed that he was not a particularly good pick. So my faith in him is very low, and I'm not feeling this offense.
It'd be one thing. He's with the coaching staff that did cool stuff for 2 games, but enough of that. Even though they won with it.
Well, I was told by Saints fans who are coping that they lost their starting center, so that's why they can't do the cool stuff anymore.
Oh, there you go, Denny. I'm gonna skip the Shaheed versus Olave thing. Like the Shaheed
Doesn't
downfield
matter.
stuff is not happening with the backup quarterback. It's not.
Yeah, I just mention that Shaheed is leading in every conceivable category, and he's the wide receiver 1.
They've been using him way more interestingly, but I think it's over for now with Rattler.
For now, yeah.
We shall see. But Denny, I was going to ask you also about the Bucs. They've been like probably the least interesting good offense so far, just very predictable, even with the backfield shenanigans between Bucky Irving and Rashad White. Was there anything of note in this offense beyond the latest salvos and Bucky versus Rashad?
Well, they're actually using both of them on the field at the same time at a pretty high rate, which is interesting, and I think speaks to like the creativity of Liam Cohen is the offensive coordinator for the Bucs, and so I think you can start both of them here because the game script will be, I think, positive enough where they can run it, at a decent clip. Although this Bucs offense is very pass heavy, and we know that going in. Bucky Irving, way more efficient. He's kind of run cold a little bit as far as like touchdown scoring, but I'm starting him actually in a couple spots, and I feel pretty good about it. The Saints' rush defense is not bad by any stretch, but it's also not great. And I was kind of heavy on Kareem Hunt last week because the Saints, the peripheral stats say the Saints' rush defense can be had. So I think both running backs for Tampa are startable.
There's a chance Tampa's just going to be running incessantly. I'm honestly kind of stunned. The spread in this game is only 3.5 right now. Like the Bucs looked way better than the Saints when Derek Carr was healthy, and a little surprised.
I just have to say real quick, we have a viewer in our live.
I was going to read the same comment too, actually, Denny.
Okay, go ahead.
You can do it. No, you can do it.
This listener viewer broke some news. Bijan Robinson is limited with a hamstring injury on Thursday. That's a new injury, by the way. That is not good to pop up. He also mentions that there is no God.
He did. And it's hard to see how a just God would allow Bijan Robinson.
It's also crazy that the Falcons put "there is no God" on their injury report. I thought it was a pretty official, bulleted list, but they had it right on there.
Are you sure it's a new injury? Because he was limited with the hamstring last week. Are we sure that's new?
Oh no, he's re-aggravating something. Thank God.
Yeah, no, I mean that honestly would be better, but we'll see what a Justin
added to the report. Yeah,
we'll see what a Justin Verdant God does with this hamstring news. Two teams searching for identities meet up in the Meadowlands with the Bills serving as 2.5-point favorites over the Jets. Denny Carter, Robert Saleh has been fired, and the wagons are attempting to be circled. What might this Jets offense look like? And do you agree with my theory that we're about to get a hella mega run-heavy run game commitment?
Yes. Skibbity Giga run-heavy attack here. I'm sorry. I'm trying to get with the kids.
You got it. You nailed it.
Yeah. Thank you, by the way. I do think, with like Jeff Ulbrich coming in and looking like that Giga Chad meme, I think
he's the alpha in the meme.
Yeah, I think he's going to be like, we're going to run it no matter what.
That's what I've been trying to tell people. Like, listen, like I know he's already a run-minded or defensive-minded head coach, and like, well, how could he be even more defensive-minded? You have never seen a run game commitment like an interim defensive-minded.
Oh man, this guy. I mean, this guy is going to be like Aaron. You do not have to throw a pass today if you don't want to. And by the way, it's going to work. It's going to work, and that means that. So you got 22 targets from Garrett Wilson last week. Nothing like that's ever happening again in history, especially not this week. The Bills basically play it away. Bills defense plays in a way where they beg you to run the ball. I think that Brees, they will take the bait here, which is stupid, but they will do it.
I actually don't think. Why would this team not reset and go back to basics? It's not. You got to go back to basics.
They're gonna fall for it.
Isn't Brees averaging
their offense is broken? Their offense is broken.
I have some stats. Wait. Before we get into a shouting match. Bills play the 5th highest rate of too high coverage. That's what I was talking about. Consequently, they have allowed the most rush yards before contact this season. Jets are dead last in rush yards before contact per rush. So I think that can, they finally found the solution maybe to that problem. Bills opponents have a 57% neutral pass rate. That's the 10th lowest in the league. and 42% of the yards gained against Buffalo this season have come on the ground. That's the 7th highest rate in the NFL. I think Braylon Allen is interesting. I think Breece Hall obviously would lead this effort, and just, ratchet down your expectations for Garrett Wilson. I know people told me to cope and cry last week. The guy had 22 targets and didn't do anything. I'm sorry. He's still not good.
PPR check still cleared easily.
It did. Yeah. 100 yards on 22 targets. He's great. Obviously, he's a really great receiver.
Kyle, Denny already gave us a spiel on the Bills' struggles earlier this week. Check it out if you've not heard Tuesday's Rotoworld football show yet. But what is yours? What has gone so direly wrong with this offense? Why does Josh Allen look the worst he has since 2018 and 2019?
I'm going to say, I feel like we've overblown how bad they are.
9 of 30. 9 for 30 last week, Kyle.
What rank do you think they are in points scored this year?
That doesn't matter.
To scoring. Hold on. In what way does scoring points not matter?
That was a joke for the record.
They are 3rd in points scored. They, I believe, are 4th in EPA per play. And I think I'm going to say this one's a little bit worse than last year, but it is very similar to what we did last year, where they were 8th in points per game and 3rd in EPA per play. Generally very good numbers. They fired their offensive coordinator. And you know what? They marginally improved after that. And I think this year, I'm going to say, is probably a little more concerning because
it's more concerning. Back-to-back games under 200 yards passing. Josh Allen has 1 touchdown in the past 2 weeks. He has 25 completions the past 2 weeks. He has not been good.
No, he hasn't been good the past 2 weeks. Wouldn't attempt to win. Last week was terrible, and it'll make any stretch that includes last week look very bad. But when we have a larger sample of games, we should look at it. And they're doing really well in the larger context of their entire season. And you know what Josh Allen, we saw it last year, as I pointed out, is really famous for? Having a bad game or two. The guy, for as great as he is, loves to explode or implode, rather, in 1, 2, 3 games a year. And even including the fact that they did that last week, one of the worst games of his career since he became the Josh Allen that we know, they still look pretty good. So I'm going to say that was the worst game we'll see from him this year.
Denny, we talked about the Jets probably going run game committed. You talked about Garrett Wilson apparently not being good. Are there any down ballot Jets worth looking at here?
I think with the way that the script will probably go, I don't think that you want to get cute with anybody here. I guess Lazard would be the wide receiver 2 for now, but I'm not recommending that folks play Lazard, and Mike Williams is not a thing. So not quite yet anyway. Tyler Conklin could be.
Say it.
I mean, but see, okay, so Conklin got away with it because the play volume was astronomical, and therefore the pass volume was astronomical against Minnesota last week. Okay, that's not happening here. It's just not. So you got I got away with it in a couple leagues with Conklin. I'm bailing on him this week. The script, the environment is not going to be good.
Ooh, ye of little faith. Tyler Conklin's been cooking now for the better part of a month, Denny. Come on, look at this.
And
6 catches, 4 catches, 5 catches.
How many yards do you have in that 4-catch game, if you were to say it?
No, it doesn't matter. Denny, what were you going to say?
It's 17.
If you get 11 points from Tyler Conklin, it seriously feels like getting 50 from your quarterback.
No, yeah. Denny's comments seem more interesting. That's why I wanted to feature him. The Eagles come off by tanned, rested, and ready as massive home favorites versus the drain-circled Cleveland Browns, Kyle. Did the Browns' offensive struggles mean they're no longer even a concerning matchup for Philly? Because still a good Browns pass defense, but if their offense is so bad, you can't get the other team off the field. Do we not even view the Browns as a concerning fantasy matchup anymore?
Yeah, frankly, not that much. They are 17th in EPA per play against the pass, 16th against the run. They're banged up on defense. 3 of their starters in the secondary didn't practice on Wednesday. Haven't seen the Thursday report yet, but we'll see. And they were already not doing particularly well. I think that's one natural regression. It's hard to be a once a decade level defense in back-to-back seasons. And 2, they're banged up. And 3, the offense it's worse in that last year, if you look at their games, some of them were played by Joe Flacco, and having a good offense isn't necessarily going to help your defense, and they're getting no help at all from the offense. So so many compounding factors that make their defense, which is still really talented, just not as difficult of a matchup from can my opponent score fantasy points perspective. So no, I'm really not that worried.
Myles Garrett cannot wait to get on this Matthew Stafford plan. Where I got 3 injuries and the season's over. I'm just going to call it a day here.
Yeah.
Week 8 or 9, that is coming. Denny, put the Browns' struggles into words, because last week was kind of like a moment of truth game for the Browns in a really, really easy matchup. And the truth was they are god-awful.
Yeah, no, it's truly, truly bad. Just give you an idea, the Browns have a negative 0.5 EPA per play on pressures. So that's about twice as bad as the Zach Wilson Jets last year. It's like unfathomable how bad Deshaun Watson is. He's taking a sack on 28% of his pressures. He's taken 26 sacks overall. No other quarterback has taken more than 18. Like it's crazy how bad this guy is, how washed he is, how much he doesn't care. It's very clear. Watson has the lowest dropback EPA of any quarterback in the league. His air yards conversion rate is second worst only to Bo Nix. I mean, it's abysmal, and they're going to commit, and they've committed to him. And so nothing will change. Nothing will change. And it makes me feel like the Amari Cooper gig is up for now. I don't know what to say about these pass catchers. They're dead in the water as far as fantasy goes because of how bad Watson has been.
I mean, Kaya, realistically, who are we starting from the Browns? David Njoku seems like he's going to play, but he's hurt now with the knee. Jerry Jeudy kind of going nowhere. Jerome Ford even kind of stuck in neutral flex. Like, are we even starting Amari Cooper still? Yeah, who are we even starting from the Browns offense?
I'm just going to go with Amari Cooper and call it a day. He's averaging nearly 10 targets a game. They're the most useless targets that you can possibly find, but he is top 10. I believe he's 7th in expected fantasy points among wide receivers. The 10 targets a game are good. And we saw, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago at this point, that you can still get explosive games when you're getting 150 or 200 air yards. You only have to convert on like half of them to have a good game. But it's purely by sheer force of overwhelming volume that you can rank him as a wide receiver 2/3, which is really underselling how good of a player he still is. But that's the way the Browns are.
The Commanders entered last week with a 123.3 QB rating against. It was the worst in the league. And Deshaun Watson was 77.2. And that's because he had a late garbage time touchdown.
Yeah.
Speaking of quarterbacks, by the way, Anthony Richardson is practicing in full. The Flacco dream is dead.
Well,
it's dead. The Broncos and Chargers meet up as 2 of the worst sort of good teams we've ever seen. With the Chargers getting 3 points on the road, Denny, who do we care about in this Chargers offense beyond J.K. Dobbins? Can it be Ladd McConkey's season against a really tough Broncos secondary?
I would still say, well, yeah, I mean, Quentin Johnston in a vacuum over Ladd, but in this matchup, Quentin Johnston's probably going to see a lot of Surtain. So I guess it would have to be Ladd. Honestly, guys, like if you can avoid playing any Chargers here, I really would recommend that. The Broncos defense is legit. They're like, think of them and the Vikings as like defenses you really want to avoid in fantasy. And the Chargers have no interest in scoring points. That's very clear. I'm not playing Dobbins. I'm not playing, obviously Gus Edwards is the most washed player in the NFL. Ladd McConkey's running out there like Toad from Mario. I guess
the Guardian helmet.
Oh dear.
But
but the Broncos allowed 70 points once and then decided to become the best defense in the NFL.
They're like a scary good defense, especially against the pass.
They actually, by the way, I do think the Chargers are going to be a better offense than we've seen. Not in this game, but Herbert has not been
not
healthy
against good
since,
teams, but sure,
not been healthy since early August. I think they're going to be a little bit better. I don't think they're going to be so Harbaugh nightmare zone that they have been.
I hope something changes coming off. By the way, I would maybe stash Kamani Vidal coming off a bye. J.K.
Let's remember some guys. I'll start. Kamani Vidal.
Hey, Gus Edwards isn't practicing at least as of Wednesday. I haven't seen the Thursday report yet. We know this team wants to run the football a lot. We know they have a good offensive line. Good call, Denny. I like that one. Not just because I drafted a ton of this guy. And I'm struggling to remember him.
Things could get crazy. You never know.
Let's remember some guys. Current state of the Broncos offense, Kyle.
Not good. Bo Nix. Not. I will get to some Bo Nix optimism in a minute. But
come on.
Let's start with the broad swath of how he's looked. Not good. 27th completion percent over expected, 28th in EPA per play, 31st in PFF passing grade.
Anyway, he's atrocious. Yeah, don't give me.
I will say, for a few points of optimism, one, he's just running the football a lot, which is somewhat of what he was in college. He was a sneaky, really effective rusher in college. He's on pace for 400 yards and 10 touchdowns. 10 touchdowns won't hold, but it's notable nonetheless. It would be the second most for a rookie quarterback in their first season. And very strangely, in 2 of the past 3 weeks, he has been PFF's top graded deep passer. And I went back and watched them. I was like, yeah, he actually looked really good. I think he's a guy with not a great arm and who is not particularly good, but is just good enough to spike every now and then. And that's what you hang your hope on, is that he improves both physically and mentally as he gets acclimated to the NFL. And those weeks where he makes a few good throws become more and more frequent. As of right now, you can't project that to happen on any given week.
I agreed with Denny's anguished sigh, actually. Bo Nix has been looking better. There's just, how much better can you really look when you have no weapons at all?
None.
Yeah, and part of he's been looking better includes a 60-yard performance on like 20-something attempts. That's the bar was set so low that is included in the sample of he looked better.
Well, I mean, you look at 22 rushing attempts for Bo Nix over the past 3 games. Like, for fantasy, that's how he can get there. Like, that's why I think that he's somewhat serviceable in super flex form.
Well, I think the problem with that is, going back to the point I made with someone else earlier, is that maybe it was Bo Nix on a different show, or he's not a dual threat because he's not passing like enough, because he can't, because there are no weapons. So it's bad when the only way the quarterback can score points is rushing.
Yeah, Courtland Sutton looks like he's ready to move on.
He does, and I wish him well in that endeavor. The quarterback swapping Raiders are 3-point home underdogs against the Steelers. Kyle, will start in Pittsburgh, or is it fair to say Justin Fields might be living on borrowed time? We talked about Galaxy brains. Mike Tomlin loves to threaten to start Russell Wilson and then not start Russell Wilson, but it seems crazy. But yeah, Fields is the kind of guy who's not allowed any slip-ups, and was not an impressive watch in Week 5 against the Cowboys.
It's kind of what we've seen in back-to-back weeks from him, both of which are losses in which he's had to drop back more often. You know, we're on modest to slightly high bench alert for him. His 2 lowest PFF passing grades have come in the past 2 weeks. All 4 of his turnover-worthy plays, past 2 weeks, he had 0 in the previous 3 weeks. 7 sacks over his past 2 games, and a sack rate over 10%. That was a 7.4% sack rate in the first 3 weeks. I think when they put not even a lot on his plate, but more than the bare minimum on his plate, the cracks in the facade begin to show. Is that to say Russell Wilson will be better? No, but we're trying to project if he will get benched. Do we think it gets better? No. But from a fantasy perspective, if I can't lock you into all 4 quarters, or if I need to hold you as my QB2 and I don't know if I can play you next week, it's real hard to keep Justin Fields around on my roster.
It's hard to care about any of these guys. I mean, Najee Harris keeps botching golden matchup after golden matchup. Jalen Warren has resumed practicing. George Pickens just wants out of here.
You know what's strange is that Jalen Warren was declared doubtful on Monday, and I blurbed that, and then now he's practicing. So
Mike Tomlin called him doubtful, and I think it's part of Mike Tomlin who pulled him out of the game just because he didn't look right. Like, he wasn't, he's not a doctor, and he just looked at Jalen Warren and said, "You don't look right." And he was correct. Jalen Warren's knee was hurt. So my guess is he's being relatively overprotective with Warren, which at this point, a guy whose entire game is based on how explosive and efficient as he is, I get why you want to hold him out maybe more than you need to.
Seems like he might play, though, because the Monday doubtful does not have force of law the way Friday doubtful does, when it's actually codified into the injury report. So, Steelers are tough. Denny, any effects of the Raiders quarterback change? I mean, Devontae Adams not playing, Zamir White's out again.
Yeah, it's way worse. Aiden O'Connell's way worse than Gardner Minshew, but that doesn't matter to Antonio Pierce. He just wants to make a point, I guess. So, Aiden O'Connell last week, 3rd most inaccurate passer on the week. Really just awful stuff across the board as far as EPA and success rate. I'm not going to bore you guys. I will say that over the past 3 games, after a crazy pass heavy start that gave me some hope for these pass catchers, the Raiders are 7% below their expected drop back rate over the past 3 games. So we're not going to get it. We're not going to get any of it. We're just going to get a boring run heavy scheme. I guess you're starting Jacoby Myers as is like a wide receiver 3 or 4. And
he's battling an ankle injury, but he's supposedly fine. He's in the top 40 at receiver.
And I do think this is unfortunately really bad for Brock Bowers. This development, Bowers was cooking with Minshew to an extent. He's not going to cook at all with.
He's cooking except for those weeks where he didn't cook.
But he was still seeing opportunities.
Yeah.
He's not going to even see those anymore. Like that, it's
the Bowers thing is he's had some of the best games by any tight end all season, and you just have to cling to that and accept that the valleys will happen. But yeah, that was with Gardner Minshew. With AFC,
I will say
it's very bad.
With O'Connell, the one thing we know about O'Connell is he will be benched. It's just a matter of time.
It's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time until this show is over because we're out of games to talk about. We're not out of football to write about. Kyle's stardom, sit-em, dropping Friday. Denny's funnel report, dropping Friday. Kyle's 32 facts, already out. Denny's regression files, already out. My rankings, already out. So keep it locked to rotoworld.com for that and for all the latest injury updates. As we highlighted, there's a lot of uncertainty with some of the most important players in fantasy football. So for Denny, for Kyle, and Pat, thank you so much for listening. We never went anywhere, but we'll be back soon.